When the ship is underway, the importance of the watchkeeper on the bridge is easy to see. Put simply, the officer has the responsibility to ensure that the ship is safe, following the planned course, and is avoiding the surrounding hazards. This is achieved only with good situational awareness. Once alongside, those responsibilities do not change. The ship must still be kept safe. All the surrounding hazards must be avoided, and the operations on board must be going as planned. Good situational awareness is equally important. Many things can go wrong. There are threats to the safety of the ship and to the safety of the individuals on board. There are dangers to the cargo and to the property on board. In port is where the cargo is discharged and loaded. It's the delivery of the cargo on time and as loaded that is the commercial basis for the entire ship's operation. And that's what pays your wages. Given this importance and the threats and risks while alongside, then it becomes clear that good watchkeeping in port is as important as good watchkeeping at sea, possibly even more important.
Okay. You want to continue the charging terms to be complete?
Yes.
I think.
Your company procedures, the master's standing orders, and the chief officer's instructions will provide the basis for the duties of the watchkeeping officer in port. This video is going to examine some aspects of this task. Cargo operations are probably the most important ship operations, for it's on their financial success that the ship depends. Cargo operations vary enormously. From petrochemicals, where the discharge is controlled by the ship's officers, to container ships, where the discharge and loading is organized and largely carried out by shore staff.
On the vessel today, I would anticipate we'd be able to keep 3 cranes.
From your training and experience, you will know the requirements of your own ship's cargo operations. But whatever the cargo, many of the principles remain the same. Is the cargo being loaded or discharged correctly? Is the right cargo being loaded? And is it in good order and condition? Is the loading orders and regulations being kept to? Is the ship likely to be damaged? Prompt and accurate reporting of any damage must be done within 24 hours. Cargo condition, speed of loading or discharging, any delay in operations, all can have commercial consequences. The chief officer will know what is critical in your cargo operations, and you should discuss the procedures with him. Much of the time, cargo operations proceed according to the predetermined plan. It's when the unexpected occurs that the skill of the deck officer is really tested. By responding in the right way, you can make a big difference to the commercial performance of your ship. Make sure you know what can go wrong, and what to do, and who to contact if it does. Good situational awareness is the basis for any effective response. Make sure you know what is going on at all times in port. This means being on deck for much of the time, keeping your eyes open, and communicating with the terminal staff. This will also help in another major task, making sure that the ship is safe. First, the hull itself. Current, tide, and cargo operations can all move the ship in relation to the shore if the mooring ropes are slack. The ropes need to be checked regularly for tautness. If your ship has self-tensioning winches, these are best left on the brake and not left in tension once the ship is secure alongside. In an emergency, never release the brakes and attempt to pull the ship back alongside using the power of the winches alone. You must know the ship's mooring equipment and be familiar with its operation and capabilities. The type of winch and brake, the size, type and length of lines. Make sure you're aware of the tidal changes and keep an eye on the weather forecast. Sudden changes can have a big impact on cargo operations, and additional mooring arrangements may be needed.
One more! Get the pulley out.
Be aware of nearby ship movements. Check the lines after any ship has arrived or left the next berth. Shore gangs have been known to cast off the wrong lines. You need to be sure that the cargo operations are not compromising the stability of the ship, and that loading and unloading are proceeding equally on port and starboard sides. A surprising number of shore supervisors have little notion of ship stability, and they do not have the final responsibility for it anyway. That rests squarely with the master, delegated to the deck officer on watch. Whatever type of ship you are on, keep an eye on the cargo plan. Make sure that it's being followed. If you deviate from it, then the stability calculations will all have to be redone before work can proceed. Ballasting will need to be adjusted appropriately as cargo operations proceed, as planned by the chief officer. Correct ballasting is crucial to the strength and stability of the ship. If you find that the ballast and cargo plans are out of step, you must call the chief officer immediately. While alongside, the officer of the watch needs to know what is going on in the engine room. How many people are working there? Are any special operations underway? If so, is there any potential risk to personnel or risk of pollution? Pollution has become a big issue in many areas of the world. It's another of the officer of the watch's responsibilities to ensure that the ship does not pollute the environment. In bunkering procedures, the chief engineer may be in charge, but the officer of the watch must keep in close contact with the bunkering team throughout the operation. He must ensure that all steps to avoid and minimize spills have been taken, that the anti-pollution gear is on deck and ready for use. He must be familiar with the SOPEP, the ship's oil pollution emergency plan, and his responsibilities detailed in it. Informing the terminal or the local authorities will be one of the first steps in the plan. Any cargo spill can lead to pollution. In addition, many ports are sensitive about air pollution from the funnel and cargo dust. Noise pollution from chipping machines and pollution from organisms in ballast water can also cause problems. And this is not a complete list. These topics need to be addressed in the management meeting prior to the discharge and passed on to the officers of the watch. In some countries, a ship can be fined or even held for pollution infringements. So it's vital for the deck department to be aware of the rules, regulations and sensitivities of each port. Watch out for any pollution in the water that is not due to your ship, but might be blamed on you. Keep an eye on the water around the ship and report to the terminal if you see any pollution. The most important aspect of any operation is personal safety. Some of those who come on board may have little idea of ship safety or the specific hazards on your ship. First, make sure that their access is safe. Netting should be rigged below the gangway. A lifebuoy with a line and self-igniting light must be nearby, ready for use. Many different groups of people will want to come on board. Agents, customs and immigration officials, superintendents, relief officers and crew, family and friends, ship's chandlers, inspectors, salesmen. And then there are the visitors you don't want. Stowaways, traders, thieves, girls. Well, perhaps someone does want the girls, but they still shouldn't be allowed on board. They can cause all kinds of trouble. In some ports, prostitutes have planted drugs on ships, to be found later by the customs. Prostitutes have also been known to give details of ships to pirates.
Oh, g'day. What do you want? I have a parcel for the chief
It's not
officer.
always possible to tell who is who as they come on board, and it's too important to leave to guesswork. That's why, if at all possible, you should have a gangway watch. They should politely identify each visitor and make sure that they have official business on board
It's to go to the chief
and either
officer,
know
it's
where to
engineering
go
parts.
or are escorted. One benefit of a gangway watch is that every visitor to the ship can be given a safety briefing. It may be short and simple, it may take time. That will depend on your cargo and ship operations. You cannot afford to leave security up to the terminal. It's excellent in some and non-existent in others. Even where security has been good, this doesn't guarantee that it will be good on this visit. Stowaways have become a big problem for ships in recent years. Repatriating them is extremely expensive, and often the ship owner is made to pay. Keeping unused areas locked and inspecting cargo holds before they're closed up are two ways the officer of the watch can help minimize this problem. A range of preventative measures is suggested in the study guide that accompanies this video. Good gangway security is a start. The officer of the watch has the right to ask anyone they see on the ship what they're doing.
Yes.
What you doing here? And who you present?
Always
This
be
is my
polite
card.
to start with.
I just go
It
around.
just might be
inspect the ship.
the
Yeah?
new
And
superintendent.
You got the permission from the captain?
Yes, I already get the master permission. You can check with the master.
Anything can I do for you?
It's okay. I just take a round. It's okay.
It's during the hours of darkness that ships are most vulnerable to unwanted visitors. Means of access should be restricted to a single point. The gangway watch will need to be equipped with a radio. In ports where the risk of thieves is great, fire lines should be made ready at likely points of attack. The hoses should be lashed to the deck rail to act as a deterrent. Water should be left on deck so that the response can be immediate and forceful. You need to keep away those people you don't want on board, but also take care of those you do want. You must ensure that all the stevedores are aware of any hazardous materials or special circumstances that present a hazard. Be sure that you know the status of the ship's equipment. Are all the cranes fully operational? If not, the foreman in charge of the stevedores must be notified. Don't let the stevedores exceed the safe working load of any crane. Fire prevention is another job of the watchkeeping officer. He needs to keep an eye on all work being carried out on the ship to ensure that all risks are kept to the minimum. If there is work in enclosed spaces or welding, then the officer of the watch must ensure that the permit to work is being kept to and that all safety procedures are being observed. Recently, other less obvious risks have led to a big increase in the number of claims for personal injuries against ships by shore-based personnel. Even if these are unfounded, the nuisance and cost to the operator can be considerable. All walkways and gangways should be kept clear of obstructions. Precautions should be taken to make them safe so that visitors do not slip, trip or fall. Any oil, ice or deck repair is a potential hazard. Hatches not required for loading should be closed. If manholes are open, place the lid partly over the hole. Rope off potentially hazardous areas. Make sure that your ship is as safe as you can make it, even for dull-witted non-mariners. And if things do go wrong, make sure that you keep a record of what happened to give your owner evidence to protect himself against claims. Should there be any incident, then good record keeping is crucial. If the incident is followed by a dispute or claim, then the owner will need evidence to defend the case. If all the facts are readily available, disputes can often be settled promptly. Always inform the master of any incident and treat everyone with the respect they deserve. Immediate politeness and concern can help avoid subsequent legal action. Record the facts, not your opinions. It may be years before the incident comes to court, and memories will have long faded. But by careful noting of evidence, the ship owner will be able to defend any future claim. Whatever happens, it's vital to keep good records. Not just of accidents, but every event needs to be recorded in the deck log. The company manuals and master's standing orders will have lists of the information that needs to be recorded. This will include ship's draft, tidal changes, any testing of cargo systems, details of cargo operations, details of ballasting, notification of security arrangements, and weather conditions. A complete, clear, and accurate uninterrupted deck log shows to the operator, the master, and any surveyor or lawyer that the duty of the officer of the watch has been done properly. It demonstrates that the officer has paid attention to everything that has occurred on board. Note every relevant event and action in the log. Another responsibility of the watchkeeping officer is maintaining the garbage log. There is a legal requirement to record the time, quantity, and type of every discharge of garbage. As officer of the watch, you will be asked to sign various documents by shore personnel. Only sign documents that your standing orders authorize you to. Before you sign, read the document. Be sure you understand it and that it's correct. If you are uncertain, get the chief officer or master to look at the document before you sign.
Okay.
To carry out a successful watch, it's important to start out right. Get to the watch handover point with plenty of time. Have a good look at the deck log. The outgoing watchkeeper will want to ensure that you are properly informed of everything that has happened and what cargo and ballasting operations can be expected during the watch. Make sure that you know who is on board, not just which officers and crew, but also any visitors and their expected time of departure. Be certain that you have or know where to find all the keys for the various storage spaces. Be certain that when the ship is underway, the importance of the watchkeeper on the bridge is easy to see. Put simply, the officer has the responsibility to ensure that the ship is safe, following the planned course, and is avoiding the surrounding hazards. This is achieved only with good situational awareness. Once alongside, those responsibilities do not change. The ship must still be kept safe. All the surrounding hazards must be avoided, and the operations on board must be going as planned. Good situational awareness is equally important. Many things can go wrong. There are threats to the safety of the ship and to the safety of the individuals on board. There are dangers to the cargo and to the property on board. In port is where the cargo is discharged and loaded. It's the delivery of the cargo on time and as loaded that is the commercial basis for the entire ship's operation. And that's what pays your wages. Given this importance, and the threats and risks while alongside, then it becomes clear that good watchkeeping in port is as important as good watchkeeping at sea, possibly even more important.
You want to continue discharging Tamsui and complete?
Yes.
I think.
Your company procedures, the master's standing orders, and the chief officer's instructions will provide the basis for the duties of the watchkeeping officer in port. This video is going to examine some aspects of this task. Cargo operations are probably the most important ship operations, for it's on their financial success that the ship depends. Cargo operations vary enormously. From petrochemicals, where the discharge is controlled by the ship's officers, to container ships, where the discharge and loading is organized and largely carried out by shore staff.
On the vessel today, I would anticipate we'd be able to keep 3 cranes.
From your training and experience, you will know the requirements of your own ship's cargo.